All right, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Pay 10 Pips, and we're live on YouTube now. So we're trying to take over the YouTube game. No more zooming. So let's get into it. We're gonna go top down. We're gonna go weekly, daily, 4-hour, and possibly down to the 1 hour. So we can just get a good look at what the market's looking like this week. Possible trade ideas. I don't like to jump into anything too crazy, so really just want to get my odds and probabilities set up. If there's a trade idea though, we're definitely going to jump into something. So let's start on the weekly with the dollar. Okay, still to me, January 2018, right? We're in this area where we reacted pretty big in the past. So this is my demand zone I've had for a while. As you can see in the MACD, we have big time divergence. So bullish divergence in the momentum. We've been making lower lows and now we're equal low in pretty much on the weekly. We're throwing good wicks down here. So definitely see a possibility of at least a pullback, or this little downtrend could possibly be ending, right? So last week we did have some nice little doji pattern right here, just throwing wicks to both sides. There was that NFP move that did send the market back down. But overall, I'm still kind of expecting a possible bullish dollar. But at this point, the market's just showing indecision. So we're going to really have to wait and be patient. Like I said last week, patience is the key. So let's check out what we got right now. MACD still throwing that divergence out, okay? The market was making lower low. Momentum was not following. As I've had for a while, we've had this little pattern right here that I believe we're starting to possibly break out from and maybe make a move to the upside. The reason why I'm looking for bullish moves right here, I know it's been in a downtrend forever, but when it gets into demand zones or when it's just low period, I don't really want to look to keep selling it. It's not necessarily the best idea to try to catch the bottom, so that's why I'm being patient with it. But at the same time, I don't really want to keep looking to, or I don't want to look to sell it at all, because the probability of it falling from here as well is not that high. So being patient. Let me check out this 4-hour, right? So when I look at the 4-hour, definitely looks a little bit more bearish, right? We had this area right here where the market didn't want to break. It did break it, and then it slammed right back under it. So that kind of looks like a little stop hunt move. That it looks like the dollar could continue down from there. But also, if I take my fibs from the low to the high right here, swing to swing, we have a nice little fib area right here where the dollar could possibly begin to move to the upside, right? So it's really in that spot right now where overall it could make that move up. So that's why I'm being patient. If it's going to move up here, so this is the target area that I want it to get to pretty much. If it's going to move up there, we're going to see bullish structure form on lower time frames. So we should get multiple opportunities if this thing really does make its way up there. So that's why I'm being patient. Okay, let me just go to the 1 hour and see if there's any divergence. And there is some divergence right here. So I'm seeing the market start to pull up, or I guess calm down to the downside. Bullish divergence right here. We've made lower lows, but the momentum has not created that lower low yet. So what I'll be looking for tomorrow is either a break of structure for the market to want to give me possible moves up, and it's a little risky just strictly because there was so much bearish pressure here. So when the market gets into this area, regardless, there's definitely an area it's definitely an area that I could just sell off hard from, like it did in the past, right? But I also am looking for, you know, higher highs ultimately to be created all the way up into those areas. So it's probably not the best week for the dollar, to be honest. It's not giving me a whole lot. But if we do get a dip down right here, and the MACD dips down as well one more time and gives this 3-wave divergence pattern, then I'm definitely going to be looking to take this market up, at least for a little bit, right? At least for a little scalping opportunity, because when I see 3 pushes down with momentum diverging like that, that's telling me that this 1, 2, 3 should be over and we should at least see a pullback, right? Another spot, I remember this area well last week where I talked about this possible stop hunt. So this area right here got swept, and then we made a really quick move to the upside. So those like quick move down, quick move up areas, I'm looking at those and I'm looking for demand in those areas, right? So if the market comes down a little bit more into this area, you know, really sweeping out these lows pretty much right here and right here, sweeping those out, and then makes a quick move up, I'll be looking to possibly take that market up. But overall, what I'm going to say on the dollar is I'm going to say waiting for bullish opportunities, being very patient, not looking for sells unless lows get smashed. So I'm not looking for any type of sells unless all of this structure right here gets broken through. So all of it needs to break heavy. Until then, I'm either looking for a scalping opportunity to the upside, or I'm looking for higher highs to get formed. Okay, technically has been forming some ugly higher highs, so it's not I guess it could happen, right? We could see this type of move happen, definitely. But at the same time, overall market's pretty bearish, so we'll have to wait and see. So with that being said, on the dollar pairs, anything paired with the dollar is most likely not going to have the best probability setup. Definitely is going to have some setups with it, but the probability is kind of 50-50. And the way I trade, I really like to wait for the best probable setups, 1 or 2 a day, maybe even less sometimes. I don't trade every single day. So let me check out the euro, and let's see what we got here. Okay, so same thing really, throwing dojis out in these areas. So let's back it up just a little bit and mark off this little zone right here, right? It's definitely a supply zone. Back in 2018, we dropped out really hard, and let's move this so we can see 2018. Yep, we dropped out really hard, came back in, gave a little pause, and then popped back up. You know, this area right here can be just an area of demand. We're not going to get anywhere close to that this week, but we'll have it marked off, right? So we're really playing inside here. And since we're at supply, I'm not looking for buys at all. I'm going to need all of this to break. You know, we still have the same type of divergence, you know, so bearish divergence right here. So I'm definitely leaning towards the downside, but with the indecision, you know, it's not showing me anything crazy yet. On the daily, there was the same type of divergence right here. Just mark that off. And it did come into this point of control right here last week and kind of respected. So what I'm looking at to happen is if we do start to break down, you can see how the volume starts to decrease right here. This is going to be an area where if price does start to break here, we should see it fall a decent amount, to be honest, right? A pretty decent amount. And overall, I would like to see it come all the way down into these areas, right? And it lines up really well with the 61.8 right here, okay? And you can see that was a nice respected price in the past as well. So, you know, if I'm looking for the dollar to go up, I want to see this come down. We all know that the dollar is pretty much a piece of shit, so eventually, you know, the dollar probably will fall, but I don't really run off the fundamentals. I run off the technicals. So I just let the technicals tell me what's up, and I go from there, right? So not a whole lot of volume on these bullish days. It is holding above the 50 EMA, so that's why it's still a little risky to sell it. Last week we caught some good sells on it, right? We had this break of structure right here, and even though it came right back up, it did the move down, okay? And now we're back into a spot where if we fib from this swing to this swing, we're at that 61.8, just kind of respecting it right now. And so ultimately, right, I want it to come all the way down here. So this swing is kind of lining up pretty well for the market to come to the downside. Let me look at the volume profile a little bit more. Okay, there's a lot of volume down in this area, a lot of volume where we are right now, and then not a lot of volume up here. So what that's telling me is if price does make a little move to the upside, it should respect and end up kind of trying to come back into either this area or this area down in here, okay? So what I'm gonna do with the dollar, or with the euro, we got the same bearish divergence setup. So the dollar's showing that bullish divergence. This is showing bearish divergence. Oops, bearish divergence. And if it makes one more move to the upside, if it does that three-wave pattern, and for those who have been watching my analysis previously, you'll know I like that 1, 2, 3, and if we get that third move up, I'll be looking for the drop. Okay, I'll be looking for that thing to drop. Or if we get a break of structure, or even like a little head and shoulders type pattern, I'll be looking for a drop. The only thing about it is, you know, we had the nice drop last week that was called out, and then the NFP move right here. It just really is really like not screwing us over, but it was a news candle that made the market look pretty bullish, right? So if the market does come back like into these type of areas, you can see buyer stepped in really quick here, buyer stepped in really quick here. When it gets into that area, it's a good area to look to take profit regardless, or a good amount of profit, because buyers step in this area recently. So overall, I want to see this type of move right here. So I'm going to be saying waiting for a I'm going to say waiting for an impulse down or three-wave divergence. Okay, so it's already, you know, the two-wave divergence is already starting to play out up here. You know, it's starting to sell off already. But when it comes back into this 50 EMA and it pops up like this, that's that pattern I really like to see. And I'll be looking for this type of move. Now, another I guess play that could happen is it could just fall from here and come straight into this demand zone. If that happens, I'll probably have to just leave the market alone, because what could happen there is it could come into here and blast off. So if you are bearish on the dollar, that could be a great setup that you could look for, because if it does come into that, you know, I do see a possibility of it coming to the upside. But I'm waiting for this right here to look to sell based off the divergence. I don't like going against momentum divergence at all. Okay, and I do have the chat box up. If anyone has any pairs that aren't listed right here, let me know and I'll add them to the watch list, and we'll go over it after like EA or something. Okay, so AU is looking very similar, but it's a little more sideways. So let me check this weekly candle. Okay, just another area that it's fell from in the past. Right up in here. Okay, supply area. It's got the divergence as well on the weekly. Bearish divergence. The daily is super sideways on this, and it has been in this range for a minute. So I'm going to put this little demand area down here, and that's really where I want the market to get to ultimately. I do want it to come down into this area. The volume profile, you know, right where we are pretty much, there is a lot of volume, right? And there's not a lot of interest up above, and there, I mean, technically there's more interest below. So I'm more in favor to the downside still. It just doesn't, it's not setting up very pretty. You can see right here that these lows were taken out by this candle, and then it immediately shot back up. So that could be a stop hunt, and the price could extend up. But like I said, there's not a lot of volume up in here. There's not a lot of interest. So if it does come into these levels up here, I'm looking for price to just smoothly reverse. If price doesn't smoothly reverse in those areas, it's gone. It's for real gone. These are just areas where there's not any limits, limit orders basically, is a way to look at it. So I'm thinking we're gonna see some rejection like this possibly. There's this little, not trend line, but just like kind of dynamic liquidity. I've never used that term in my life, but it kind of looks just like what it is. Just a lot of wicks up here. Let me see. We got the slow line down on the daily, so that's a bearish sign. On the 4 hour, yeah, on the 4 hour, it doesn't look very good for the bulls, to be honest, or for the bears, to be honest. Sorry. We have just this area right here of just completely gets taken and then reverses quick. So honestly, I usually like to look for buys off of these type of patterns. So let's see what we got going on here. Let's see. Overall though, if the dollar does go bullish, this is going to end up falling. But I don't really, another thing that I don't like to play off of is big impulses down and then big impulses up. It's really not my setup, but at the same time, it is giving me an opportunity right here where we broke these lows, came up and made a really nice bullish move. You can see in the MACD how it just broke all this structure with the momentum. That's a bullish sign, but at the same time, it did that to the downside as well, and you can see what happened. So it's a little shaky. I will say that if it gets into this area right here, okay, we have this impulsive move up and then a slam down that took out these highs. If I extend that over here, if we get into that level, I do think that that's a possible area to sell from, especially with the divergence that we're seeing on the 1 hour as well. So, you know, short term, I'm looking for this to maybe come up one more time, give this rising wedge pattern, and then start to correct itself down into these levels. Once it gets into these levels though, that we had the stop, hunt, quick move up, then I think it might go bullish. It might be a play like this is what I would like to see. So either way, I'm gonna mark this area, the 61.68 level, demand, and you know it hasn't technically made this move up here yet, so right now these levels are really down here, so I'll have to adjust it depending on what price does. So if I do end up selling this tomorrow or the next day, then I'm gonna look to get out pretty much around here. And if I do sell it, I'm putting tight stops. So I'm putting a stop pretty much like this, and I'm gonna be selling it down to the pretty much the 61.8 right there. So it could be a good little sell, but it's also a little risky based off of this momentum. So I'll be watching, definitely going to be watching this type of play. Once it gets here, you know, we could just going to have to be patient when it gets into this area and see what it does. Okay. GU's been just ranging so much. Look at that. Let's go to the weekly. We got all of these pairs are in supply zones because the dollar's in a demand zone. And they all have this bearish divergence. So that's simply why I'm looking for sells. Nothing more than that. It doesn't have to be too complicated. They're in supply areas. There's divergence. The dollar's in demand area with bullish divergence, right? So I'm just following my rules there. I know overall, like I said, the fundamentals for the dollar aren't too great, but I'm following these technicals right here. So last week, the volume, not too, just barely at average. Let me get a little bit more into this. And yeah, most of the volume is coming in down here. So I'm looking for this to end up correcting more longer term. On the daily, we are getting that divergence as well. But it has been super sideways. So let's go into the 4 hour. Man, so sideways. This area has been holding really nicely. Let's mark this little demand area off. And ultimately, you know, right now it's kind of making this little inverted left head. It came up, made the right. Okay, let me drop this down so we can get a good little look right here. Bring this up, right? It kind of made this little pattern right there. I'm not a big fan of seeing inverted head and shoulders at the top of a market. I like to see that more at the bottom of the market. So I'm gonna kind of dismiss that a little bit, unless, so really what I'm looking at, I'm looking at this area right here, okay? I'm looking at this area as manipulation. So it came into this overall supply zone, right? And it broke all these highs with this type move. Once it did that, it slammed to the downside. So what that tells me is maybe some banks came in and faked the market out and dropped. And once we get back into this, I think it has a possibility of dropping again. So with that being said, I'm going to take it from swing to swing. And we've rejected the 61.8 nicely. The 78.6 is my next spot to look to sell from. Okay, so I'm going to bring this out. Stop right there, and really just bringing it down to the demand area should be fine. If you're a swing trader, you can look to hold it into those lower prices, but really just right there should be clean. That's a 3-to-1. We've just rejected right here so much that I don't really want to try to take price below that. But what I'll be looking for is there any divergence on the 1 hour? Yes, there is. Okay, so the momentum is making lower lows. I like to see that. And it does look like a little bit of just overall liquidity right here. So there's two ways I'm going to play this. I'm going to have an alert right here, and I need to start setting more alerts. Let's make this an alert. And when price gets up there and there's still bearish divergence, that's going to be an easy trigger for me to pull. Okay, 37 pip stop. It's not bad on GU, and I'll be looking to take that to the downside. If it comes into this area right here without retracing up there, so if it does kind of just continue to fall a little bit and kind of rejects off the 61.8, then that might be the area to look to buy it up into that. Okay. Another thing I'm going to wait for as well, or possibly wait for, if the market gets up here and the divergence is kind of gone, this momentum does something like this, and then I'm not gonna sell it if there's no divergence anymore. But if the market shoots down fast from this area, meaning it came back into this manipulation area, and we'll just bring this right over into here, right? So if it comes back into this manipulation area and then shoots down quickly, that's telling me, okay, the sellers just like they came in right here, are probably coming back in right here, and we should see some type of wave to the downside. All right, so that's what I'll be looking for on GU. I know I didn't write anything on AU, so let me just write something on GU. 78.6, let's see, sell from the 78.6 if there is still bearish divergence. If not, wait for manipulation move. And then, like I said, I'm not going to write it down, but there's a possible area down here to look to buy off of if you're about that life. Probably going to hold off on any buying opportunities just because it's just ranging so hard, and I want to wait for it to get to the top so I can sell it instead of just trying to play the middle of the range, if that makes sense. Okay, UJ. What's UJ doing? Okay, overall on the weekly, last week, what did it do? Not a whole lot. Not seeing the cleanest of zones right here, but we've definitely respected right there. So I'm gonna go ahead and make that a supply area. And then, you know, I really wanted this to come down a lot lower. So that's still a possibility, right? It's still a possibility for this to come down into, you know, we have the impulse ABC type move. I would still like to see that overall, but we would need structure to start to form to the downside, if anything, if that happens. Okay, and then I've been talking about this bearish flag for a little bit. It could be starting to play out. If we do get breaks of structure, like I said, then I'll be more inclined to take this thing down to the downside a little bit. There's a little bit of volume here, and there's not a lot of volume there. So let me look at the next area where there's some volume. Okay, right at the 61.8, that is a good sign. And so areas that don't have anything, those areas, either they get rejected off of quick or they get smashed through real quick. And I'm looking for this one to just smash through that. So I'm going to be waiting on bearish structure. And we pretty much got bearish structure right here. So how I'm going to play UJ. Right, there was this move right here, bearish divergence when this move made that, and then we struck down pretty quickly. Now this could be a little complex pullback. You know, this is still an area of structure as well, so we have this move, and we could be seeing like a bullish harmonic right here. But overall, I want to see UJ continue to fall. So with this impulse down, I like how the 4-hour MACD looks. There's a little break right here. We're getting a pretty nice impulsive move. The slow line is down. So there's a lot of confirmations that this could fall. I'm going to take it from this swing to this swing. And I'm going to look at this area for possible sells. Let me go into the 1 hour and see what this is talking about. Yeah, I like the way this looks on the 1 hour. For UJ, it does look like it could start to correct. There was a little bit of bullish divergence here. It's going to be the same thing as all the dollar pairs, it looks like right now. We have this big impulse down and just not the biggest retrace. So if we do dip down one more time and we form that falling wedge, I will be probably looking to try to buy one of these pairs that are forming like this, especially if it kind of impulses out of it. Then try to catch like another wave, the second wave at least, up into this sell zone. But once it gets into here, I'll be looking for a lower time frame divergence to drop out. So on UJ, buying if it makes 3-wave bearish divergence, selling once it gets to the 61.8, 78.6 swing zone. I'm just going to call it a swing zone because it is technically more of a swing. This little buy right here would be more of a scalp. I'm not a lower time frame trader, so my scalps are still like 30 pips. Just the stops aren't as good, or aren't as, I wouldn't say aren't as good, I would say just are more likely to get hit just because they're not in good structure spots. Okay, weekly on UChef, right? So this area right here, we've just had a lot of demand. We got really close to it right here, had the big reaction, big supply up here, and you can see that's where all the volume has been. So you don't really need that volume indicator if you can just read price action really well. It's been my eyes for a long time, so I'm never gonna probably ever take it off my screen. So what I'm looking at right here, I want to see this market end up going back into the supply area, at the very least into some areas like this. So with that being said, we'll take a fib from the low to the high after this big impulse that was made, and we have been rejecting off of this swing zone, right? This is a big swing zone. I mean, you know, the TPs are right in that zone pretty much that I'm looking for. So this is kind of another area as an intraday trader, I really want to be patient, because if it is going to make a move to the upside, it should give multiple opportunities. It's not going to be that pretty, of course, right? But it should give multiple opportunities on a lower time frame for this market to move to the upside. Okay, on the daily, pretty much the same thing as all these other dollar, pretty much like the DXY, like, at least, you know, got the divergence. This one looks a little bit more similar to the dollar. Got this little breakout of this wedge pattern. It's not the biggest breakout by any means, but it did kind of pop out of there. Then we drop back down. So let's go to the 4 hour. And this is the only thing I don't like, this NFP move right here. So the market was kind of making these higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher low. It could still make a higher high from here. But if it's going to make a higher high from here, it should give an opportunity like this, right? We should see an impulsive move first. Then I'm going to look to play the retracement to take it to the upside. I'm really not trying to buy it right here, because this thing could just really fall out from here. It really could. Based off of this type of movement, you see how price came and just took these highs out and then slid right back down. So I'm kind of torn on the dollar pairs. They could easily come back up and just fall. So let me mark this area off. You know, it's definitely, I'm gonna take this off of there, and this is definitely an area where price could start to fall out again. No doubt about that. And you can even see sellers stepped in right here. So I'm just gonna move this a little bit down just to give it an area. So, you know, I don't really love when I see big up, big down when I'm bullish, because this is kind of a sign that stops could have been taken right here and we could be forming to the downside. But nonetheless, still the same type of pattern. Move up, move down, move up, move down. If we get this right here, I'm going to have to look to buy, you know, and I'll just adjust that a little bit. If we get this type of move right here, we do have three-wave divergence coming in, or at least there's two. So if we get another one, I'll be bullish on for at least a little bit right here. So I would like to see this come up a little bit more and then drop like that. You can see how this little quick move up, quick move down. If it could come back up into that quick move down, I think it's going to drop a little bit, and then we get that three-wave pattern coming into this quick down, quick up move. Right, so there's a lot of, in my opinion, a lot of manipulation in the market right now. So it's a little tough to play. I don't like 50-50 shots. So there was manipulation here. Obviously, we had this quick stop hunt down and then a move up. Then we made an even bigger move to the upside. So that took out these lows. I'm gonna make a line right here, and we've almost respected that, right? So if it comes back into that, I'm thinking it could come up a good amount, at least into this. So I'll be looking for something like this, stop below this, and a move up into that. That's what I really want to see ultimately for the dollar, US Swiss. Okay, EG now. So those are the USD pairs. Not really liking the dollar. I want to see a little bit more movement from it, being patient. I didn't write anything on UChef, but that's all good. Let's go look at EG. Okay, EG, same thing as it's been doing for freaking ever. It's been holding in this demand, and it's been holding at this supply. Now we're not anywhere close to those zones right now, so let's zoom in a little bit. Last week, what the candle do? Little indecision. Okay, let's go into the daily and see what we got. Right. So first thing I see off the daily is this impulsive move right here, and to me this just looks like a bullish flag on a daily time frame, like a very clean bullish flag, to be honest. So, you know, if we come into that 78.6, I'm ready for that. I'm ready for that 78.6. If that happens, you know, swing traders, you have a really good trade opportunity right here to just hold and let it ride for a couple of weeks probably. Now, what I would do, since I'm intraday, is when it comes in, if it comes into the 78.6, I would look for bullish movement on lower time frames, right? So right now though, I mean, there is some divergence still. So I don't want to sell into this. There's bullish divergence. I don't want to sell into this. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait for either an impulsive move to the upside, because it is holding off the 61.8 as well. I'm going to wait for an impulsive move to the upside to show me bulls are about to break, retest and go. Ultimately, you know, I would want it to break out of here, but I think I'm trying to catch it before, because we do have this area right here. Let's go to the 1 hour to see this. Okay, so there was these lows that were created, and then we got a pretty good little fake out and then a move up. We came back into the fake out and we started to move up again. So to me, we're starting to see some bullish structure on the 1 hour. Regardless though, before we get too far, look how sideways it is, right? So it is not, the market is not in a good state to me, period. It's all sideways in my opinion. Almost every pair is sideways. So with that being said, you might want to just not put as much risk on anything. That's what I'm going to do at least. So, but we had this kind of move up right here. It came into the 61.8. It started to move up again. It's not really bull flagging, and it's not really enough of an impulse, right? Because it didn't break these highs for me to really look for this move. But if we can break up, if we can break up above this kind of little pattern right here, then I think the next retracement will be good for something like this. So I'll be looking for a move like that on EG. I know, you know, from this high to right here pretty much is another little area that has been holding. I'm not a big trend line fan, so I really just like to play structure. But regardless, it's not looking too appetizing in my opinion. So I'll probably just leave it alone unless I see some type of impulsive move. So I am going to write here. One more thing though. If these lows get taken out, this would really be what I want to see, to be honest. Just like a fast move down and then a fast move up, showing me, okay, buyers are ready to come in. And then that would be the real wave to see. but that's going to take a little bit longer. I'm kind of looking for tomorrow's move, right? So we'll see what happens. I'm just going to write no play unless I see impulse to the upside. Not looking for sells, just because the higher time frame is kind of setting up in that bull flag. Okay, GJ was a money call from last week. Last week we were looking at this impulse down, clearly see that impulse, and we were looking off the 78.6 for the limit order. Comes down over 100 pips, was clean. It's like a 5 to 1, maybe 4 to 1. But let's look at what we got going on now. Take these fibs off, and we can see that we're in an area on the weekly where sellers have definitely came in before. So sellers stepped in big right here, sellers stepped in big right here, and we're back kind of in this area. I'm going to put it at the top of this wick, because that's where the last little seller came in. That boy said, yeet. And then we fell. So still haven't broken this high quite yet. I know it is very bullish looking. Have a little ugly harami pattern that I don't care to trade off of on the weekly, but we are possibly showing signs that it wants to slow down at least. You can see on the MACD, got the bearish divergence. And so I'm not looking in particularly to buy it, to be honest. Let's see what this is looking like. Yeah, same thing. We got the divergence coming in right here. I'll just bring it down from the weekly. Got the divergence right there. Now, I know it's at this little break and retest area, like heavy at this break and retest area on the lower time frames. So let's look at that real quick. So if I just take it from here to here, right? We came into the 61.8, shown a little bit of respect. It kind of does look like a little bull flag. So I really don't want to sell it right here, but I kind of do at the same time, yo. So here's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at all these lows right here, and I'm seeing that if the market gets below here, we're coming really low. Okay, this is pretty much the next area. Or if the market gets right here, it's rejecting hard. But either way, I think the market is really trying to come back into this area, the middle, at least the middle of this area, for another try to the upside if it's going to go to the upside. So what I'm going to look for on GJ, I'm going to look for this 4-hour structure to keep playing out. So I'm going to look for something like that. So when I go to the 1 hour, you know, might not get that full-on retracement from this swing to this swing. But ultimately, that's what I'm going to be looking for. I don't really want to see it, I don't really want to buy it in a supply zone. And that's as simple as it's got to be. I don't really want to buy it in the supply zone, even though, you know, this right here is huge. It's not like I'm going against my rules, because one rule is don't buy in a supply zone. The other rule is don't sell when you see a bullish impulse. So that's why these are kind of 50-50 in my opinion. It's definitely a play. Also, I'm not a swing trader, so I don't really care to play the swing. Right now, the structure on the lower time frames is bearish. So I stick to that lower time frame 1 to 4 hour structure over anything. And then play the structures how it is. So this would be kind of the setup right here, bringing it down into like the 78.6, or even just these lows right here is a really good area, right? That 61.8, that 78.6. Ultimately, you know, I'd like to see it come all the way down into my real targets. But that's another good setup for GJ. It's a 50-50 setup because it could just start to really go bullish here. So what I will wait for to even look at even possibly buying GJ is if it starts to break out of this bull flag. If it doesn't break out of this little bull flag, I'm gonna remain very bearish on it. So let it come up, touch the top of the flag, and then let it fall. That's what I'll be looking for, basically. Okay, GA. Whoa, big move down on GA. So let's look at that, see what that weekly candle looks like, and not as crazy as it looked on lower time frames. Either way, GA has not broken this area of supply in a while, since a full year, right? So it's been chilling here for a full year. So it might be ready to break out. I'm gonna let price tell me that before I even think about trying to buy it. To me, I'm seeing momentum divergence, so I'm not really trying to play the sells, or trying to play the buys, excuse me. You can see the little pattern right here, okay, and it's trying to break out of it. If I'm even gonna think about buying this market, it's gonna be down into this swing area, or that's gonna be where I look for lower time frame impulse moves. So down here is where I really wanna see the market come. So I'll be looking for intraday moves down into that. And you know, this to me looks like a pretty good impulse down to possibly play off of. So I'm going to do the same thing as I did on GJ. I'm going to take it from the swing to swing. Now I understand that it didn't quite break. Let me see what's going on with this. Why didn't it show up on the, oh well. I see that it didn't quite break this structure. It was making a little higher highs, higher lows, another higher low. So I understand that structure hasn't been fully broken, but I'm looking at this scenario as a momentum preceding the price. So that's what's going to happen most of the time when a trend changes. The momentum is really going to precede the price action. And this is one of those scenarios where I think if it comes back into this area where we saw heavy sellers, I'm looking for heavy sellers to step in again back down into that area where I'm looking for, right? You can see every time it did come into the supply zone, there's not a whole lot of interest up here. So if it can get back up into that, I think that's going to be a really good selling opportunity. And kind of the same as some of these other pairs that really fell or really moved without correcting. This is another one of those that did. So this fell pretty good, and it still hasn't given even a 38.2 correction. So if this pair continues to fall, right, if it continues to fall without correcting and it has divergence, it's going to be in a spot to look to buy it, in my opinion. At least buy it up to an EMA or buy it up into this swing sell zone. So I'm liking this though a lot for GA. This is probably the best looking one in my opinion. Let me see what EA looks like because they're very similar. Oh yeah. Okay, so EA's looking nice. Let's go to the weekly and see what it looks like. Okay, yeah. So last week, you know, obviously super bearish. Last week was a bearish engulfing. So my rules are if I see an engulfing candle, I'm really not trying to play against it. Engulfing candles are one of the candles that I really play off of. Also, I like to play off like a kind of tweezer top or those, not dojis, but what are they called? Hammers. So hammers would be down low, kind of a what's it called? Shooting star. Okay, this is interesting though. So this did kind of come back and retest this broken structure area. What's it gonna do? What's it gonna do? Let's see here. That's a little risky when I look at it on the daily, right? A little bit risky. It's coming into this. I want to see it reject multiple times off of this, not just one time. Also, I want to see it come a little bit lower, to be honest. I want to see it still come down to that 61.8. You see this bullish candle? I want to see it come back into that bullish candle. I'm not seeing a whole lot of volume, to be honest, with that bearish engulfing. Let me go on to the 4 hour and see if there's some more. Yeah, there definitely was some more. Really what I'm seeing is on the 4 hour, you get this complete break of structure, okay? And a big momentum move to the downside. So I know it came right into this 200 EMA, right off of this kind of break and retest area. There was this little, whatever pattern you want to call this, right here, ascending triangle, and it did come back and retest this. I mean, this is another 50-50, to be honest. But I like it. I still like it. There was this manipulation up. And you're not going to get picture perfect setups every single week. That's another thing that I've learned with a little bit of experience. You got to have a little bit of risk in the market to make some money, right? And if you don't, you're probably not going to make anything. There was this pop up and then pop down. I'm looking at that, and I'm going to look at that 78.6 area, okay? You can see there's not a lot of volume here anyway, so I think the market is going to come up a little bit into that. Let's bring some more price into this and see what this volume is telling me to the right. Come on. Yeah, it looks like we're going to come up a little bit, all the way up into the 78.6 most likely. That's where this last little volume node is. But this is going to be kind of a swing trade. 40 pip stop on EA is perfect. This could be an area where you take most of your profits. Seeing a little impulse right here with low volume, low impulse. So I'm not really looking at this to be, this definitely could be a move as well, lower time frame. We'll see what, setting all this up right here. I have a feeling that tomorrow that could be a play. Make sure you check out Abdul's analysis tomorrow morning. He might have some retracement. He plays the retrace a little bit more with RB because it'll give an exit signal. This is at this also break and retest area right here, so it might just fall from here. It's all 50-50 right now, in my opinion. But I'm going to wait for the best risk to reward I can get, and if the market comes up here, I'm definitely going to be looking for lower time frame divergence. So EA and GA to me are the best looking setups. Let's see what gold looks like. Yep. Okay, so gold fell pretty hard last week. Let's see that. And it didn't even give a bearish engulfing. It just gave like a possible indecision, right? But you can see sellers stepped in big here, sellers stepped in big here, and now we're back close to that. Sellers stepping in a little bit again in this area. To me, it's starting to look like an overall market cycle correction, to be honest. I'm not sure if this is really going to start to take off or not. It's starting to lose a little bit of steam on the volume. On the daily, that volume did pick up on this bearish candle. So I'm still in favor of gold falling, honestly, correcting a little bit more. But it's done this before and it just rises. It does it before it rises. So let's mark off this level right here. And last week we caught the initial drop on gold. So now I'm just kind of like, do I really want to give my money back to the market on some 50-50-ish? Still a little bit to go on that supply area. You can mark it like this if you want, but I'm putting it kind of closer to the top. So there is technically still room to go up there. Not really that much divergence on the daily. On the 4 hour, this is what I'm really kind of seeing, just like this big breakdown in structure, right? And I want to try to catch another wave to the downside. So what I'm going to be doing, and I mean you can fib this impulsive move like this. It came into the 78.6. Right here is a really good swing spot. So what I'm gonna be doing, it's got this divergence. If it gives 3-wave divergence, it's definitely a good sell for me, right? If it pops up one more time and there's still 3 waves of divergence, I'm definitely going to be looking for some type of sells. And if it breaks this area right here, I'm going to be looking for it to continue to move down. Now, this is a sketchy area because of how quick the bulls came in, but all those dollar pairs kind of have that because of NFP. So I am going to mark this off as like a demand area. Price definitely could move up from there as well. But if it breaks this low at all, I'm looking to somehow take the market down into this area. I don't think it's just going to hit here and move up. I don't think so. If it does do that and gives like a head and shoulders, hell, I'm looking for it to come down into that too. Right now, it's kind of given a possible look that it's going to keep dropping, to be honest. So it might do, it could very well do something like this, come up one more time, and like I said, if it does come up one more time, that's where I'm going to be looking to sell from. So with NFP happening last week and how it shook the market like that, it's making everything a little bit 50-50. So it might be best to just wait a little bit on the week for some of these forex pairs, even gold. And I'm personally going to be a little bit more patient this week than I've been in the past. So let's look at the VIX, the volatility index. This is going to tell me which direction these indices might want to go. Okay. It doesn't look too bullish, but it is very low, right? 16 is a very low reading for the VIX. You can see every time it kind of gets this low, it does have a little pop to it. So I'm, again, don't really want to buy into the indices because of how low the volatility index is. On the daily, it's not showing any bullish signs yet. So I think if we can just get a pop in the VIX at some point this week, bearish opportunities in the indices are going to present themselves, just based off of how low this is, right? If this can kind of hold this area, to be honest, and give any type of move like this, any bullish candle on the 4 hour, I think the next day we will see an opportunity. So how I'm gonna play it, I mean, you can't really read it that well on candles sometimes. So how I'm gonna play this basically is if it breaks up above this, I'm gonna be a buyer, or I'm gonna sell the indices. If it breaks above this, I'm definitely going to sell the indices. So let's just kind of move it like that. If we can get a break up, I'm looking for these to drop. So that means I'm probably gonna have to be patient on these. Is it making all-time highs yet? No. Okay, let's go to the weekly. And yeah, these are really high. There's not a lot of volume with it. Let me check out the other ones on the weekly real quick. The S&P, same thing, not a lot of volume, but we're close to these all-time highs. US 30, not a lot of volume, close to all-time highs. So y'all know me, I'm not really trying to buy when price is at all-time highs. It's not how I roll at all. But there's nothing on the weekly telling me that these should just slam reverse. It's kind of got like a corrective ugly corrective Elliott form of an Elliott correction that could start to sell off, but nothing is telling me at all really that this is going to start to just move to the downside. Nothing. Let me see on the S&P. Only thing I see on the S&P is some really nice divergence. While the market is up at these all-time highs, and the momentum is kind of slowing down. That's kind of giving me a sign that this might want to reverse, but I'm definitely going to wait for lower time frames to confirm that. Same with this. The momentum is dying. So not buying, even if it breaks to the highs and retests, I'm not looking for any buys. It can go up. I don't have to trade it. That's cool. But I'm being very patient, looking for selling opportunities. So, I mean, right here, right, this was kind of a break and retest. This 4-hour swing is even diverging, right? From here to here, we're moving up. Momentum is not. So for me, I don't really see a good little swing area to fib. You know, you could fib this whole thing like that, and we're at the 78.6. That could be a possibility. But I'm just going to wait for bearish structure. Now, I definitely see this right here, these last two swings it's made, big divergence. So momentum, this is most likely going to come down to the 50 EMA. If it doesn't come back to this 50 EMA and it just continues to the upside, tomorrow is going to be a selling opportunity because this divergence is huge. The market has, or doesn't have to correct, but the market's most likely going to correct back to this 50 EMA before it goes bullish again. So if I wake up tomorrow and this thing is still doing something like this, I'm going to try to find a bearish opportunity on it, straight up. I'm going to go down to the 15-minute just for one real quick second. Yeah, this is doing similar things to what some of the other markets are doing. If it creates that little type of pattern, you know, that I want to see, maybe it does something like this, and it comes up again, selling it. Risky selling it, right? Just super risky selling it. 1 hour on this is doing almost the same thing. We have the divergence right here, and the market is just slightly moving up. It's really flat, to be honest, right here. But you can't deny this move up. You just can't deny it. It's not, I mean, I'm just not going to buy it at all time. This is the all-time highs, I believe. I'm just not going to buy it anywhere close to the all-time highs. It's not like it's Bitcoin. Okay, and then, you know, this one, if anything, it has a little bit more of a swing to it, in my opinion. And we're at that area where I want it to just swing down heavy. And it kind of did give a little bit more of a bearish opportunity. So tomorrow, this one might be the one to really focus on. We have this type of impulse down. And if we can get a retracement back into this area, it might be the play for the downside. So I'm most likely going to be looking at US 30 and correlating them with these. So if these still have this bearish divergence, that's going to give me more confidence that if this comes up there and these have bearish divergence, that they should all fall, especially if the VIX pops. Okay. Now let's look at Bitcoin at 32K. That's rough. Oh, well. Breaking that 50 EMA on the weekly. That is big. All right, so let's look at this. Like this. It's got, I mean, from a swing perspective, 17 to 27 is definitely not out of the question, I would say. Let's go look at the daily. You can see this little Wyckoff schematic up here that ended up playing out to the downside. So two things I would say. This is either a redistribution and prices are going to continue to fall and then somehow accumulate and go up, or this right here is like the spring that we're going to see. Either way, I mean, prices have gone sideways here. They haven't wanted to break up above of like 40K at all. And until it breaks above any type of structure on the daily, there's no point to even look to, I mean, if you're accumulating, definitely look to buy. But from a more of a technical analysis or margin trading perspective, this is not looking good for the bulls. Okay, there is starting to get a little bit of bullish divergence on the daily. That's good to see. And let me look at the volume profile. Yeah, the volume profile has a lot of volume down at literally 10K. So we'll see what happens. I know that boy Tory K talking about that 10K. Man, I doubted him for real. And the more price just doesn't move up, the more I'm like, dang, I can't really say much about that. So this is definitely breaking this little trend right here. That's not beautiful. It had this little bear pennant, bear flag, and it's starting to roll down a little bit. Let's go to the 4 hour, and you can see this move right here. You know, you can see it a little bit better. This thing could really pick up some heat. It really could. How these patterns are really played out is, you know, they're supposed to make equal measured moves like that. So I mean, by all means, I don't want price to fall that far, to be honest. I want to see something like this. So we've had this sideways, we've bought here, price buys here, comes down here. I want it to sweep out and then show a strong sign back into this area. Okay, I'm going to draw this little trend line right here and trend line right here. I want to see this exactly happen. If this can happen, I will be so bullish on Bitcoin. Literally so bullish, it's crazy. So just dip below 30K. I don't care how far it goes. I'm not looking to buy it on margin anywhere down there, but if it can come back above 32K, really that 31K price, if it can come back up above there, this retest will be the trade of the year, probably, in my opinion. That's what I'll be looking at. But I gotta wait for the rebound, the hard rebound. I'm gonna just delete that and just really focus on this area right here, okay? So this to me could be one or two things. Like I said, it could be redistribution. So the market definitely had the distribution pattern up here, fell out, and it's either redistributing for lower prices or it's the accumulation pattern that I've been talking about for a while, and price could give this spring to the downside. And if it comes back up and tests, that really could be the last pretty much time price ever gets there, and we could see a big move up. So I'm being very patient. Of course, price is looking pretty scary. We're getting a lot of volume picking up as price is moving down, so that's usually a sign that it's going to continue to the downside. So I'm thinking we're going to see lower prices on Bitcoin. Same with all of these. If Bitcoin is dropping, all of these are going to continue to drop. Let's look at Litecoin. Yep. XRP. Yep. Let me just see them on the daily. And these are the same type of plays. I want to see them come down, reject back up. Litecoin, exactly the same thing. Come back down, come back up. Ethereum. Ethereum is going to be probably the coin that I start to bag up on the most, especially if it falls down into these prices. If Ethereum gets any lower than this, I personally am going to put a lot of money into Ethereum. a lot. I think one day Ethereum and Bitcoin could even compete against each other in price. So back like when Bitcoin, remember when Bitcoin was 3,000 and then it turned out to be 60,000 and you wish you would have bought it at 3,000? I'm saying Ethereum to me is one of those that could be in those scenarios right now, right? So, I mean, it just looks super bearish. If it does do that, comes down into this obvious point of control down here, all the way down into these 400, 500, 800 prices, hey, ultimately that's just better pricing for us to be able to accumulate these coins with the big dogs, because Ethereum is going to impact the world. 100% is going to impact the world. Probably even more than Bitcoin will. So right now though, with this daily looking how it is, not even looking close to buying it yet, it needs to break up above really 28. So I'm gonna mark this range right here. And to me, these Ethereum and Bitcoin, since they hold the most dominance, those are the two coins that you really want to correlate everything else with. If you have like a shit coin that you like, that is booming, that's good, you know, whatever. I'm not going to analyze any of those, but you know, everything else, it's either on the Bitcoin blockchain, the Ethereum blockchain, and there's some other ones that are coming up too. But to me, those two are the biggest networks, and everything else is going to run through those pretty much, right? So I'm really being patient. You can see how Ethereum hasn't quite done as much of a dip as Bitcoin has, right? Bitcoin's almost making lower lows, and Ethereum is still just pretty much in the middle of the range. So like I said, I think Ethereum is going to start to outpace Bitcoin in the next kind of bull cycle, bull run, but we're still waiting on that to happen. This is still dropping by the hundreds of pips. So definitely be patient. You can maybe see this little falling wedge pattern that could possibly play out, but we really got to be patient on these. Don't sell them, hold on to them. Don't get weak hands. This is going to eventually run back up. The miners are going to get backed. People are going to start to hold their Bitcoin and never sell them. I believe that's very true. So, but that's it for me, guys. I really appreciate y'all coming on here and checking this out. We'll be going live for a little bit more until like the Next Wave platform is complete. Once the platform is complete, we'll still be doing some free live analysis, but a lot of it's going to be held for the students in the platform. So I encourage y'all to come on here and so we can teach y'all exactly how to analyze these markets. So you don't have to sit on here for an hour or so and watch me do it. You can just do it yourself. But I appreciate y'all, everyone. Y'all have a good one. Take care. And let's make some money this week.